Spielberg, no less, said of my next guest, if he picks the right roles and doesn't forget the theatre, he can eventually be Alec Guinness or Laurence Olivier. Spielberg should know he set him on the road to international stardom by casting him as a murderous Nazi camp commandant in Schindler's List. Since then, with films like The English Patient and Onegin, he's established a reputation as an actor as much admired by the critics as by the fans. His latest film is a version of Graham Greene's The End of the Affair. Ladies and gentlemen, Ralph Fiennes. Daft question to start with, but pertinent. Why an actor? Why do you want to be an actor?
Well, I thought I wanted to be a painter first.
Uh-huh.
And when I was at school doing O-levels and A-levels, I only was mainly in the art room drawing and painting. I did perform in school plays and was told I was quite good, but everyone, when you're at school and you say you want to be an actor, everyone is saying, don't be an actor, don't be an actor, you'll never work. And there were a few actors at school, and they were quite theatrical and a bit actorish.
You like that?
Kind of, no, I sort of thought, I'm not sure I want to be an actor if I have to be like that. Anyway, I did a foundation art course at Chelsea. And I think the atmosphere of that course, which was designed to take anyone who thought they had any talent as any kind of artist, was to take them by the scruff of the neck and to say, look, if you think that drawing a little glass with a sharpened HB pencil you're good, take this 1-inch paintbrush, dip it in black paint, and now draw your glass of water. And you were kind of roughened up in your visual sensibility. And I think the atmosphere of that made me think, well, I can do lots of things, you know. They're provoking me to think more broadly about painting, and I thought, actually, at first I thought I want to do theatre design, and then I thought, no, actually, I want to be an actor, and it just came like a very clear thing.
But I mean, what about the process of acting? I mean, you've been said of you that you portray lost souls. One critic said that you portrayed them so well that he began to wonder if you were in fact a lost soul yourself. But that's probably too deep a question to ask at present. But I mean, let's take Bendrix, the guy that you play in this at the end of the affair, the adaptation of the Graham Greene novel. I mean, how do you go about? What's the key to it? Is there a trick? Is it a moustache? Is it a limp? Is it a pair of shoes? I mean, what gives you the part?
I think for me, more and more, the process of finding the clothes of a character is very helpful. I really want to have a very close relationship with the costume designer. Of course with the director. That goes without saying. But I think if it's the cloth of a jacket or the colour of a tie or how crumpled a shirt would be, and you have these great sessions with costume designers where you go for maybe 2 or 3 hours and they will have selected suggestions, and you can try stuff on and you look at it in a mirror and feel it and say, well, this jacket would be great if it was cut a bit differently, and I suppose that is the most practical way I can describe of a way in. Other things are, well, obvious things like looking at dialogue, looking at the text and just saying, why does that man say that? What's the thought process behind that line, and what does it say about the person?
To interrupt, have you ever tried a big ginger beard? because it's worked for Griff quite well. I'll just pass that on, Rafe. It's just a little...
Well, I shall try that next.
No, because it's done wonders for him.
Right.
It made him very funny.
Because in Schindler's List, of course, the uniform was part of that, wasn't it? Is what you're saying. I mean,
putting on that SS uniform was really quite peculiar, because I tried it on here in London, and I flew out to Krakow in Poland, and I think I was called for the first day of shooting. I don't even think in the end I was used. I remember I stepped out of because this was a city which hasn't been damaged by the Germans, unlike Warsaw, the buildings standing very much as they were. And there are still people there who remember, the buildings remember it. And I stepped out of the caravan in this has to be said, is a very, very handsome uniform. The Germans, the Nazis got in theatre designers to design the cut of these clothes.
Did they?
Yeah. And it feels, it's odd to say it, but it felt good. It felt powerful. And then I felt embarrassed that I felt good.
Yes.
And then we were in a piazza in what was the old Jewish quarter, and Ben Kingsley, who was in it with me, and he was playing a Jewish prisoner, and he had a Jewish armband with the star. And there was a cafe there, and this very nice lady came out, and she said, "Oh, you're from the film, and welcome, welcome, please come into this old Jewish cafe." And I said, "I'm sorry, I can't go in wearing this into a Jewish cafe." And she said, "Oh, well, I understand, never mind, fine." And then the irony is that about 3 weeks later, we were shooting in this square, and the production company had hired the cafe for actors to sit in. Yeah. So there were all these young actors wearing German uniforms and submachine guns, sitting, talking to people playing Jewish prisoners in this cafe, which says something weird about filmmaking.
Strange world. Let's talk about the end of the affair. There's a lot of sexual action in this. Neil Jordan wanted it, didn't he, in the film? The director, that is.
Yeah, he said, you know, this is so much of the emotions in this revolve around passion and sexual desire, and we have to show it.
Yes.
And I agreed with him. So.
You agreed that you had to show it.
I show some of it.
I'm going to ask you if you have one of those strange pouches. You know, they have very strange pouches, don't they, for sort of decency's sake, occasionally, which you can get away with, which is like a sort of a black triangle that's blue-tacked to your tackle.
It sounds horrible.
Oh, it's quite fun, actually. A bit painful to get off. But,
Well, we see a bare bum on the thing occasionally. But I mean, but what's interesting about my wife said, "Is it his own?" The bum.
No, it's computer graphic imaging.
But I mean, what about the business of playing a sex scene? I mean, and one or two. I mean, it's a very passionate relationship you have with this woman in the film, and the love scenes are played in a very passionate manner. When you get a script like that, do you actually say, "Oh my God" or "Oh boy"? I mean, what's the reaction?
I think when you first read it, it says they make love, and you go, yeah, right, okay. What's next? And then Neil says, "So what about these love scenes? What are we going to do?" I don't know, Neil. What are we going to do? And then we did a screen test, I remember, and he said, "We're just going to try something, because I want just to try something how the camera might move when you're making love." And I think you're a bit embarrassed. I didn't know Gillian that well, and we weren't naked. I mean, we were partially dressed, underpants or whatever, underwear. And he said, "Just find, but maybe, Rafe, you can put your head." And he sort of got my head and he said, "Put your head there." And it was like, I said, "Is that how you're going to direct these scenes, Neil? You're going to grab us and push us?" No, I think in the end, you have to, you know, you tentatively say, "Well, I could do that and put my hand there, and then I could do this, and then you could do that, undo the button here," and then it's all quite tentative, and then you giggle and laugh, and then after a while you lose your self-consciousness and it becomes mechanical. You want to find out a realistic way of showing people making love, and you know, there has to be an element of trust as the cameraman. The lighting is really important. I mean, the thing is, I think the film sells the intensity of the lovemaking.
Yes.
It's through the camera and the lighting.
Yeah.
The camera moves in a certain way. And I think as an actor on film, you are so reliant on the director and the cinematographer, because you can be doing a great performance and the camera can be behind your head.
the camera's on your arse. It's a waste of a performance.
You've directed the love scene, haven't you?
I have.
Movies. Tall guy, I remember.
A very sensitive scene of the tall guy with the... But I was a bit naughty because I didn't tell Jeff Goldblum and Emma Thompson that there was a sex scene. And it came as a bit of a surprise. But I like to tell people we did it mainly handheld. which won't mean much to people here. But no, it was great. The funny thing I have to say about sex scenes, I don't know whether you noticed this, was that you have a closed set. It's called a closed set, so that people can't just wander in and out. And it's always when there's a closed set notice on the door, everyone knows it's a sex scene, and that's the moment where all the firemen from the studio come to check the fire arrangements. And there's people hanging around in a uniform. You've never seen them before. And then the studio fireman just checking on the... just checking on...
Well, it's like if you say to people, don't look, the first thing they do is look.
Exactly.
Yeah. But another film of yours that I saw as well, that's going the rounds at present, is Onegin, which is very much a family affair, because it's directed by your sister Martha.
Martha, yeah.
And the music's by one of your brothers.
Magnus.
Magnus, that's right. And reading about you, you were an extraordinary family, weren't you, the Fiennes, bound together by this remarkable mother of yours. I mean, she had a profound influence on all her children.
She was... Well, she loved us all unconditionally, as did my father, but one of the things she believed very much is that every child should be given room and encouragement and support to express themselves in whatever way that child went, whether it was maths or science or tree doctoring or musician or whatever. She would say, go on, do it, try it. And I think that has given us all a sort of confidence, I suppose. And also my foster brother Mick, who came to our family when he was 11, he had been to various homes, and my mother and father took him on, and I think he was someone who was lost. He hadn't had any real love at all up until the age of 11. And I think the advertisement said, boy who wants to read books. And my mother said, oh, we're going to have him. We want him. And he, I mean, outside my own immediate brothers and sisters, he is someone that really felt the full force of her attention and love and guidance. So I think that has helped us, I suppose.
So in a sense, I suppose, that whatever you do now in life from such a powerful influence, that you do it for that person, in a sense, don't you? I mean...
For my mother.
Yes, is it in a sense of approval?
Not for approval, no. I mean, I can't think any of us think there's not a day goes by when we don't wish that she could see what we're doing or participate in some way. And I suppose you tell yourself, well, she is somewhere there. But she was a great woman, not just to her own family, but to many, many, many people. She gave a lot, and she was very, very intuitive about people. She could meet someone, and with 5 minutes she could say, that person's got a problem, it's X, Y, Z, or I love that person because for this reason. She was very, very sharp about people. And when you're an adolescent and you're in that sort of emergent phase and you're sort of hiding little things that you don't want people to know, and the girl you're attracted to, or the boy who bullied you, and she would always pick up on it. She'd say, what's wrong? Is something, are you okay? She'd always know, even on the phone if you were ringing up. And you maybe had a problem, or you even had something good to say, and you didn't want to say it directly. She would just intuit that there was something else that you had to talk about.
Did she live to see your success?
She was very ill, but she did get to see the screening of Schindler's List. Yeah.
Did she?
Yeah, yeah.
She died of breast cancer, wasn't
Just
it?
after end of '93.
Yeah. Now, what else then is in the pipeline for you? Because you are, in technical terms, hot. It's been a remarkable career you've had, and you're balancing. I suppose that the problem you've got, it's not a problem, but it's something you have to think about in terms of the career, is balancing the theatre and films.
Well, I'm about to start. I've had this partnership, if you like, with the director Jonathan Kent, who runs the Almeida Theatre in North London, and we did a Hamlet together about 5 years ago, and then we did a Chekhov play about 3 years ago, and now we're taking on 2 Shakespeare plays, Richard II and Coriolanus, as a double bill. Wonderful. They're not... Coriolanus is not often done. They're very different plays. Richard is a very lyrical play, and Coriolanus is a very charged, hard-edged political thriller. But there's sort of crossovers between the plays, especially to do with men in power who are conditioned to have power, but through some fault in their soul or personality can't use their power badly. They abuse their power, if you like, and they're very different. One is sort of Richard is quite a self-dramatizing, lyrical figure, and Coriolanus is a martial figure. But they have this connection.
And that's and then movies?
Movies, nothing planned. I've got nothing planned.
You don't fancy playing a banana?
I do, yeah.
I think you'd be perfect.
I think that's would be.
Because if I could have got you, I'd do the bloody picture.
We can talk about it later. Oh, really?
Well, thank you very much indeed for talking to me, and all the best with the End of the Affair, and also in Yegin. I enjoyed seeing the two of them, as I've enjoyed told you. Ralph Fiennes.
Thank you.
Now, my final guest tonight is a working-class kid from Manchester who became a pop superstar. He's a former punk who started his showbiz career waiting tables at a working men's club. He wasn't born with a silver spoon in his mouth, so now he's put a ruby there to compensate. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, please, Mick Hucknall.
Anyway, the four winds that blow, they're gonna send me sailing home to you. Or I'll fly with the force of a rainbow. The dream of gold will be waiting in your eyes. You know I'd do most anything you want. Hey, I try to give you everything you need. I'll see that it gets to you. I don't believe in many things, but in you I do. Oh, yes, I do.
When you first discovered you got a voice like that?
I did my first gig when I was 4 years old at a wedding in a pair of Austrian lederhosen with a grown-up band, and I sang I Want to Hold Your Hand. It was about that then.
Yeah.
And I sang in church when I was 6 as well.
Do you?
Yeah.
But I mean, did you always have that ambition to be a singer? Was that the...
Yeah, was always singing. In classrooms, I used to sing... I used to buy this little magazine that had all the lyrics to the latest hits, and I used to sing them to my family. And the irony is that here I am now, and nobody encouraged me to be a singer. There wasn't one single member of the family said, be a singer, you're going to do well soon. Because they just don't believe you're going to make it, you know?
No.
I mean, it's like, what is it? More than 1 in a million to do it. So everyone's sort of in your best interest. They're thinking, look, get real, kid. You're not going to make it, you know? But I just kind of did, somehow.
Did you doubt it yourself? Did you doubt that you'd make it yourself? I mean... Or were you always sure?
I didn't really know what making it really meant. I just knew that I loved music. I just have always naturally sang. I just love singing. So it was just really the success. I remember the pleasure of listening to your first single on the radio. It's just a big buzz, you know. It's a fantastic feeling, and all your relatives call you up and your friends say, I just heard it, and it's such a thrill, you know. So that's the kind of a thing that when you first start to think, oh, people, they notice you, you know. You're 4 years on the dole, no one listens to a word you say, and all of a sudden you're successful, and everyone wants to know what you think about this, what you think about that, you know.
What about this business when you started waiting tables at a working men's club? I mean, how important was that in your formative years? You were 14 when this happened.
Yeah, I always lied to them. I kept telling them I was 18. When I was 14, I said I was 18. Then they caught me, and I said, well, no, I'm 17. And I'm 18 next year, and for all the 3 years I was there, I was never 18. But the great thing was at that time, the working men's clubs are such a wonderful culture, you know. You get to hear all these fantastic old songs that probably I would never have heard, if not for a lot of the turns that they used to have on. And I remember this one guy, Cliff, and on Sundays he used to do the bingo at 9 o'clock. He'd always had a rough night on Saturday night, you know, and he always worse for wear and tear, and he wouldn't wear his teeth on Sundays. Right? So when it came to 66, he'd be like this, he'd be like, oh, bugger. 66. And every time, I just always remember when it came to 66, poor old Clifford after sort of comment about his teeth. And there's just endless memories of the people you meet, and like wives with their husbands away, working on the oil rigs and stuff, you know, and it's like, I get very lonely. You know, I'm like 14, and that's a bit naive, and I think, what does she mean?
You've always worked, haven't you? Ever since an early age, you've always been so independent. You've gone out and done things.
Yeah, it was a real nightmare for my dad, because I started work when I was about like 9, and I was delivering milk and delivering newspapers and stuff, and then I used to start collecting the money for the newspapers, and then did a few things that were a bit more illegitimate than perhaps they should have been, but I was always making loads of money. So my dad would threaten to me, say, if you don't come in early tomorrow night, I'm going to dock your spends. And I'd be like, so? So like, it was like 10% of what I earned, you know. So, hey, you know.
But tell me, your dad, talking to Teresa about his mum, who was an influence on his life. Of course, your mum left you when you were a toddler, didn't she? She left the family.
Yeah, yeah.
Just skipped, took off.
I don't remember it that well, but I guess it was kind of like that, yeah, pretty much.
But your dad brought you up?
Yeah, I had an interesting background because of my father brought me up by himself, but with the assistance of a family that was very close to my father's house, of a mother and 4 daughters.
Your Auntie Nellie?
Yeah, the legendary. Hello, Nellie. And I got effectively passed down through the 4 of them when my dad was working, you know, and I think it was very important to me, because I think it gives you a better sense of balance to have both male and female in your life, obviously, and I think without them, I probably, hell, I wouldn't have been the guy I ended up.
But what about your dad? I mean, tell me, because obviously it was a remarkable man. He's a barber.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And in that time we were talking about now, I mean, nowadays we talk about single fathers or single parenting and that sort of thing. But in those days, it wasn't. I mean, particularly the area where you came from too. I mean, it wasn't.
It's still very unusual,
it
though,
is,
isn't
yeah,
it? I mean, and it's still a challenge. And
It
I
is,
think
yeah.
a lot of people would respect people who do it. I certainly am in awe of him in that sense. The dedication. Anybody out there that's got kids, the idea of one person like that bringing them up is quite an achievement. But him being a barber was great because all my life watching TV, I'd always be like saying, "That's a wig." That's a wig. And I became an authority on wigs. I know every single famous person who's got a wig, and he'd say things like, "You think you could afford a better wig than that wig? The money he's making." So I knew all these things about, Burt Reynolds, God bless his cotton socks, and Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
I won't name him anyway for
You
embarrassment.
used to watch Granada at the Centre 6:30 at that time, didn't you?
Yeah,
You spot
yeah.
any wigs there?
Well, no,
Be
it's-
careful. I used to work on that programme.
I remember the TVs were so dark and black and white, you could barely see anything.
That's right. And black and white was a great one for disguising syrup from it really was, yeah. But what about school? Because there you are, this sort of free spirit lad wandering around earning a living, and then you win a scholarship. I mean, you're a bright lad, and off you go to grammar school. Didn't like that.
I mean, I passed my 11 plus for what it's worth, and you're supposed to go off to a clever school, and I just wasn't. Obviously from what I do, I ended up with a degree in fine arts, and I'm a musician and a writer. I'm sort of artistic, but there was no artistic outlet in the school. It was all for pen pushers and administrators and bankers, and I just felt totally out of place. And you couldn't play football. You had to play rugby, and for 5 years, I felt like a complete idiot. I didn't know what I was doing there, and I just worked and drank incredible amounts of beer and got really good at playing pool. I used to be a really hot pool player.
You're a hustler, weren't you? At one
I used
point?
to I used to win money and stuff like that. And I once beat this guy who was a champion of the local town, and he went and told the barman that I wasn't 18 and threw me out. I didn't get any prize money.
Well, what was school like, though, from another point of view? I mean, were you bullied at school?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. I mean,
What's kind of mean? Yes, you were.
Yeah, but you put up with it, don't you? I mean, I wasn't when I was out of school. I was with my friends from secondary modern who lived back at the house. So it was only really there, and that's why the school became a thing that I kind of despised, because it all centred on that. And when you're 13, 14 years old, and without being too, your balls drop and girls grow boobs, and you kind of, all your genes are all messed up. So anybody that looks a little bit different to you kind of want to pick on them. And at my school at that time, there was nobody who looked different. Like I said, there were no black kids or no Asian kids, and like the only one that looked a bit different was the lad who had red hair. Hey, look, it's him. We'll get him instead. So it was my turn. Thank God we got a bit more ethnic and got it mixed up, because they got a little bit of the hassle as well. Shared it out a little bit.
Did you like being a teenager?
Not particularly, no. Not until my first kiss, and then it all started to make a bit more sense.
I hated being a teenager. What about you, Riff? Do you like being a
Yeah, I
teenager?
hated it for all the reasons Mick's described.
Did you?
Uncertainty and awkwardness, and yeah.
Were you bullied?
I was bullied once, yeah, quite vindictively by some guys. I used to go to school on a train, and it was the age when you wanted to be on the rugby team, and I'm terrible at games, I'm terrible at rugby, but I thought I would try and be good. And I guess I was teased for being a puff. And at the time, I can laugh about it now, but at the time when you're that sensitive, it went on and on and on and on. It never stopped, and it really, I'll never forget it. It was humiliating.
Yes, it must be.
At the time when later on you can say fine, but that time.
Of course, looking at you now, you've got the consolation of knowing that they got it very wrong. I mean...
Well, I knew they had it wrong at the time.
What about you, Mel? I can't imagine anybody picking on you.
No, and I was never called a puff either. Actually, to be honest, I just had a great time at the school I went to. It was fantastic. The teachers, I was just very lucky. It's almost exactly the opposite story from what Mick's talking about, because I was just lucky in that respect. And I just wish that, every kid could have the kind of advantages of the types of teachers that I had. The teachers make the difference, really. And I was encouraged, and my parents encouraged me to do whatever I wanted to do. but the teachers really sort of showed me the way in terms of theatre and stuff like that. That's where I got into.
Yeah, you were very lucky, actually, from that point of view. I mean, I hope that happens a lot more than it did when I was a kid, that's for sure. And certainly, from your experience, too, you didn't find that teacher, that Mr. Chips figure, did you? We all looked for it in our life.
No, there was a couple of them that were decent enough, but I'd gotten to the stage where I just didn't care about anything academic at all. It became, even now I have problems reading books, like I can read perfectly well.
Yes.
But I just end up looking at the wall. And it just has something to do with like, that whole experience of the academic side. It just sort of turns me off.
Yes, you know? Yes. Well, when you started I mean, in those teenage years, I read, I think, in fact, that you went through a punk phase, didn't you? In fact, you joined a punkish band.
Well, that was my generation, you know.
Yes.
I mean, I was 16, 1976, the Pistols came out in 76, 77, and it was just more, I think it was a lot to do with a sociological kind of thing as well as the music, of just like, none of the previous generations you really related to, you know. The big pop stars at that time were all kind of like hippies and playing sort of 20-minute long guitar solos, and along came these bands that just were like 1, 2, 3, 4, and you just that was how you felt when you were sort of spotty and 16, you know. So it was perfect for me because I was very spotty at 16.
And what was your uniform? What was your punk dress?
Well, that was another thing. Early on, there wasn't really a uniform.
No.
One of the nice things about it was that people would buy things from jumble sales and wear the most outlandish clothes. And it wasn't until like by about 1978 that kind of black leather, spiky hair thing became, you know, like everyone was a punk if you looked like that, you know. And that's really when I lost interest in it. And in fact, me and a friend of mine who was in the band, we spent all our time studying Beatles songs in the pub. We were just always constantly talking about them, the chord progressions, and we really, really got very, very into songwriting at that time.
He was a Stranglers fan, weren't you?
I was, yeah.
Big Stranglers man.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. So, but that was the start of what's now happened today. There's a sort of progression from that point on. That's when you set off as
yeah,
as
and
a
I did my
musician.
art school stint, which was also a fantastic education because it gives you a sense of tradition, you know. And listening to music, I used to look back, and now I look back to music from the 20s straight through till now, and I find that very enriching and rewarding to enjoy, you know. That's just you kind of tie it in with art and with music. It just fits quite nicely.
What about acting? Have you ever thought about that at all?
Well, the trouble is with pop stars, right, is that people know you for being that. So if you're on the screen, if I was ever going to do something like that, I'd dye my hair black or something and be like a mass murderer or, you know, a junkie or something like that. I'd do something really radical so that you're not, no one even would know it was me. I'd try and change my look completely. Otherwise, it just wouldn't be any fun because they just go, it's Mick Hucknall.
It wouldn't work,
What's
would
he
it?
doing in here? It's like,
It wouldn't, the reason it wouldn't work is because you'd come on with the black hair and they'd say, look, there's Mick Hucknall with a black wig on. You know what I mean? Because
Well,
they'd be
that's
looking
probably why
out
I'm not
for you.
gonna do it then.
I mean, but that's the problem you face, is the expectation, I guess, as much as anything else. you
Yes.
know?
But I mean, have you never really sort of had a thought about it? I mean, as an ambition, would you like to do it? Is it something that you'd like to, you know, one day do?
Not particularly, no. I know quite a few people do it, and there's a lot of dedication involved and a lot of sitting around in charabangs. What do they call them?
Winnebagos.
Winnebagos.
Charabangs.
How do you feel about bananas? I'm still flogging this dead horse.
I mean, the other thing too about the acting, when I asked you that question, is I suppose that it's always struck me that people like yourself who go out and entertain to a live audience get the biggest buzz of all, I would think. Don't they? I mean, there's no kind of acting you can do, film acting or stage acting, that you can get that kind of rapport.
Well, I got a buzz just recently because my football team were over in Brazil and they played in a stadium that I'd actually performed in, the one in Rio. I can't remember.
The Maracana.
Yeah. And we went in there, I think in about 1992 or something, to 150,000 people. And that is a trip. That is really
Well, it
something,
must
you
be.
know. And they were all like singing, holding back the ears, and you know, we said before, like, do you get nervous before you go on stage like that? And I really never do, because I just think, well, they don't want to see you like that. You know, you've got to go and communicate with these people. So I
Yes.
try and turn the energy into a positive rather than sort of go on there like a sheep.
Yes.
You know, because that's the last thing people really
But
want to
it
see.
must be a buzz. I mean, just
it's
to imagine
fantastic.
150,000 people, never mind they've all come to see you.
Yeah, and it's not always, you know, size doesn't always matter. Sometimes you can get a buzz in a club of 400 people in there, you know,
Yes.
and really get the same kind of excitement from a performance. I remember we did a thing in Los Angeles in a small club called the Roxy, and I was standing there, and in front of me is this hardcore porno star, of which we had a
What,
tape of her in
male or
the back
female?
of the
Oh,
bus,
that's it.
and one of the guys said, "That's her off the tape we've got in the back of the bus." And then at the back, on a table, was Jack Nicholson standing on a table in a pair of shades in the absolute darkness. I don't know how he could see, and he's standing on a table like dancing to when we're doing Money's Too Tight to Mention, and we went for a drink with him after. So, like I say, size in the small way sometimes is even bigger, you know? And to be standing there next to Jack Nicholson, like, and he likes your music, is just amazing.
What about the other business of settling down and finding yourself a decent woman? Eh?
Yeah, you know, that would be great, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, did the background you came from, did that sort of make you sort of shy of long-term relationships? Do you think, you know, the fact that you came from this broken family?
Well, I'm just wary of a lot of people around me who they go into it and then they go out of it pretty quick. It seems like a lot of people are not doing a very good job with it, and I'd like to. I've only really felt a very, very strong sense of compatibility with somebody once, and I screwed up. I blew it, and it was my mistake. And but I know what it is, and I just have to wait until something like that happens again, which would be great. You know, I do want that. I do want that.
Do you write
I've
songs
grown out
about
of
it?
Well, I've had done so much other things, gallivanting around and stuff. I just kind of, you kind of miss the sort of intimacy of shared experiences with one person. You know, there's times when you think, you know, I wish da-da-da was here with me now to see that kind of thing, you know, instead of just it being too plural, being too many partners. I'm getting myself into some hot water.
No. I mean, but I'm going to say you do come highly recommended because I read a quote about you from one of your ex-girlfriends who said he's got the strength and stamina of a panther. Didn't ever say anything like that about you, Mel, at all?
Actually, yes, funnily enough. They called me, some idiot wrote an article in The Sun saying that I'd said that I was a lion in the bedroom.
Yes.
So yes, actually.
We believe it. All right, well, it's been great talking to you, it really has. All the best to your football team. Man, the original, you see, it's all right. I hate these Man United fans who live in Highgate. That's what I hate. I hate it all, Hampshire. It's the Denton lads who's allowed to be a Man United fan. All the best to your team.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to do a
Pleasure
dinner for Georgie for Bestie on Sunday.
Yeah.
I'll give him your regards.
Yeah, one of my big idols.
He was the best, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And all the best. You're going on tour shortly?
That's right. I've got a little tour coming up in between February and May.
All right.
We're going to be going back to South America, all through UK and Germany, and
Do you like touring?
looking forward to it. I really enjoy doing the shows.
Yeah.
I love to actually walk on the stage and perform. That's great.
Yeah.
But I must say that after many years, the airports, especially as there's more and more airport congestion, the airports and endless hotels, it might seem nice, but you really want to just get back home and sit in your own house, you know, after a certain point in
Go
time.
watch your team play, that's right.
Indeed.
And this is your latest song.
That's right,
Your newest
yeah,
song,
Your
your
Eyes.
single, Your Eyes, it's called.
Yeah.
All right, so Mick Hucknall, thank you very much indeed. Much
Thank you,
enjoyed
it's a
that.
pleasure.
And
Thank
praise
you.
God. We leave you with Mick Hucknall and his latest single. Until next week, from all of us here, very good night. Good night.
I want to look into the windows of your soul again, again. Want you, baby. You. Come on. Take it Who's to know where time will lead us now? I can't believe this is happening now. I'm not scared, I'm just wondering how. I wanna Sometimes I just crumble 'cause I know